My name is Amber Hayes. I am 31 years old. And the last thing my sister said to me before her wedding reception started was, "Guess you don't count." She said it softly, almost gently, the way people say things they have been wanting to say for years and have finally found the right moment to deliver. The hallway smelled like lilies and bleach. I could hear the DJ inside counting down to the first dance. My mother was adjusting her pearls near the ballroom entrance. My father was looking somewhere that was not at me. I was sitting at a folding table by the service doors, next to the trash cans. I had driven 3 hours from Boston alone. I had wrapped the gift the night before with ribbon I tied tighter than necessary. I had ironed my wine-colored dress twice. I had told myself this time will be different. This time they will see me. They saw me. They just decided where I belonged anyway. Before I tell you what I left on that gift table before walking out, and what happened 40 minutes later when someone opened it, I need to take you back to a brown journal in my mother's vanity drawer, to a childhood arranged around one daughter and apologized around the other. If you are watching this right now, drop your city in the comments. Just your city. I read every one. And if you have ever been the one your family seated outside like this video. Now, back to the beginning. I grew up in the kind of house that looked perfect in photographs. My parents, Gerald and Maggie Hayes, had 2 daughters. My sister Leah is 3 years older. She had ribbons and trophies and a mother who kept a journal. My parents said I was the easy one. My father said I was independent. Both words meant the same thing. Invisible was convenient. Leah cried and got rescued. I fixed things and got ignored. She performed and the room turned toward her. I achieved and the room looked past me. Thanksgiving 3 years ago. I was looking for a photo album in my mother's vanity drawer. Instead I found a small brown journal, edges soft from years of use. I flipped through it. Every page began the same way. Leah's first day of kindergarten. Leah's favorite meal. Leah's college acceptance letter. Not one line about me. Not one birthday. Not one page with my name. When I asked my mother about it, she smiled like I had asked something silly. "You never needed the attention, honey. You were always fine." That night I understood something I had been feeling my whole life but never had words for. There are 2 kinds of forgotten: being lost and being erased. My family had not lost me. They had simply decided I did not require a record. I thought about that journal the entire drive to Vermont. The venue was everything Leah would choose. A lakeside resort with European charm, orchids floating in crystal bowls, chandeliers that turned every guest into a photograph worth keeping. I arrived and handed my name to the coordinator. She checked her clipboard. Her polite smile faltered. "You are listed for hallway seating," she said. I laughed, waiting for her to correct herself. She did not correct herself. She walked me to a folding table near the service doors. From there I could see the entire ballroom through the glass. Every sparkle, every laugh, every moment I was excluded from. I set my gift on the table. A small silver box wrapped carefully the night before. I sat in the cold draft coming under the service door and told myself the lie I had been telling for years. It is fine. You do not need them. But the truth was pressing against my chest, quiet and solid. Maybe I did not need them. But that did not mean they had the right to treat me like I never existed. Leah found me 20 minutes later. She walked toward the service doors with her bouquet in one hand and her veil trailing behind her like smoke. She stopped just short of the doorway. Her reflection doubled in the glass panel. 2 versions of her, one adored inside, one standing at the edge of cruelty outside. "Well," she said, tilting her head. "Looks like they finally figured out where you belong." I looked at her. What is that supposed to mean? She smiled. The half smile I had known since childhood. The one she used before taking everything. "Guess you don't count." The words landed softly, almost gently, like she had been saving them behind her. The photographer was calling her back to the shot. She did not move. She wanted me to cry, to beg, to prove her right. I did not. "There has always been space for both of us," I said quietly. "You are the one who keeps shrinking it." Her eyes narrowed. "Not everything is about you, Amber. This is my day. You put me next to the trash cans," I said. "What exactly am I celebrating?" Something flickered behind her eyes. Fear, maybe. Then she lifted her chin. "Maybe Mom was right. You make everything difficult." I looked at her for a long moment. "I am not difficult," I said. You just never like that I see things the way they are. She turned on her heel, white gown brushing the floor, leaving a trail of perfume and contempt. I watched her go. And then I picked up the silver box from the folding table. The gift I had wrapped the night before. I traced the ribbon once. Then I stood up, smoothed my dress, and walked toward the gift table inside the entrance. Not to argue. Not to cry. Not to beg for a seat at a table that had never been set for me to leave something behind. I placed the silver box on top of the pile. My handwriting on the tag was neat and deliberate. I stepped back, checked my reflection in the glass one final time. Then I walked out into the Vermont evening. The air was sharp and cold. The lake shimmered under the lights. Behind me, through the ballroom windows, I could hear laughter and music and the sound of a family celebrating without one of their own. I reached my car. The gravel crunched under my heels like punctuation. I started the engine. Looked back once at the glowing windows. Let the truth find its way. I said to no one, then I drove. 3 weeks before the wedding, I had run into one of Leia's old co-workers in Boston. A harmless lunch. A long friendship between two women who had worked together for years. And then a confession. Leia had been talking. Not quietly. Not carefully. She had been telling people at work, at dinner, at whatever table she happened to be sitting at, exactly what she thought of her husband to be. He's sweet, she had said. But naive. A few fake tears and he buys anything I want. The coworker had shown me the screenshots. Text messages between Leia and a friend from college. Messages about the house, how it would be hers by Christmas. Messages about Noah's mother Victoria. How to keep her at a distance until the paperwork was signed. Messages with a specific kind of laugh that I recognized from childhood. The laugh she used when she thought no one who mattered was listening. I had not planned to use any of it. Not until she seated me by the trash cans. Inside the silver box was a crystal frame. Beneath the frame was a folded note. Beneath the note was a printed copy of every screenshot. Organized by date, labeled clearly, printed in the neat handwriting of someone who had spent a lifetime keeping records that nobody else bothered to keep. Not a threat. Not a weapon. Just the truth. Wrapped in ribbon I had tied tighter than necessary. I was already 40 minutes down the highway when it happened. I did not see it. But I heard it. The scream came sharp and high, cutting across the Vermont evening and echoing off the lake. Even through the closed car windows, even through the hum of the engine, I heard it. I pulled over, sat with both hands on the wheel and listened to the silence that followed. Then I drove. Inside the ballroom, the gift table had drawn a small crowd. A cousin had suggested opening a few presents for photos, a spontaneous moment, the kind that felt natural at weddings when everyone was warm and celebrating and the music was exactly right. Leia had tugged the ribbon free herself. Laughing. The lid lifted. The crystal frame caught the light. And then her hand hesitated over the folded note. What is this? Noah leaned over. The note slid loose and landed face up on the table. His eyes found the screenshots before she could reach them. He frowned. Read one line. Then read it again. He's so easy to handle. Cry a little and he buys anything I want. The music did not stop immediately. It simply thinned. The violinist missed a beat. The room shifted without knowing why. The specific shift that happens when something true enters a space built for performance. Noah kept reading. Page after page. Each line worse than the last. Jokes about the prenup. Plans for the guest house. A photograph of a text. The house will be mine by Christmas. Who sent this? Leia's voice was barely controlled. Victoria, Noah's mother, had been watching from across the room. She crossed the floor with the slow certainty of someone who had been waiting for exactly this. I think you should read the rest before you blame anyone, she said. These came to me this morning. Forwarded from the stylist you hired. Apparently they were in the wrong thread. Leia's face drained. That is not possible. Noah's voice was very quiet. It is real, Leia. The dates match. He turned the final page. A collective breath moved through the room. Phones came out. The photographer froze mid-shot. Someone whispered something that became several people whispering, and then the room was no longer a wedding reception. It was a reckoning. Leia lunged for the papers. Victoria stepped between them. You showed it yourself, sweetheart, she said. In writing. That was when the screaming started. She did this. My sister. She planted this. Noah's jaw tightened. Amber did not write those messages. She's jealous. She's always been jealous. She planned this the whole time. Stop. One word. From Noah. Low and final, the kind of word that does not need volume to carry weight. You humiliated her today. You put her outside by the service doors. And you thought no one would ever see who you really were. Every face in the room had turned. The DJ had lowered the volume entirely. A child's voice somewhere asked what was happening. Leah spun toward her parents. Do something. My mother stood pale and still near the head table. Her champagne glass was trembling. My father looked at the floor. For the first time in either of our lives, neither of them defended her. Noah reached into his jacket, placed a folded document on the table. This is an annulment petition, he said. I already signed it. Leah stared at the paper. You can't humiliate me like this. I am not humiliating you, Noah said. You did that yourself. Someone turned off the music entirely. The room fell into a silence so complete it buzzed. Then came the sound everyone would remember. Crystal shattering as the frame hit the floor. By the time I reached the outskirts of Boston, my phone had 31 missed calls. 16 from my mother. 4 from my father. 6 from numbers I did not recognize. 3 from Leah. 2 from a bridesmaid I had never been introduced to. I did not answer any of them. The quiet in the car was the best thing I had felt in years. I had spent my entire life answering, explaining, apologizing for existing in spaces that had never been arranged to include me. For once, the silence was not because I had been shut out. It was because I had chosen it. When I stepped into my apartment, it smelled like coffee and rain. The city was waking up outside my window. I hung my wine-colored dress on the back of a chair and looked at it for a long time. It had not picked up a single mark from the evening. Not from the folding chair. Not from the service door draft. Not from the hallway where I had been asked to sit while the people I grew up with celebrated inside without me. It looked like armor I had not known I was wearing. The first message I read was from my father. He did not call again after the initial burst of calls. He sent a text instead. Short. 11 words. You should not have had to sit there. I am sorry. I read it 3 times. My father had spent 31 years standing slightly to the side of every difficult thing, choosing the path of least resistance, letting my mother's version of events become the family's version of events by default. He had not been cruel. He had been absent in the specific way of people who convince themselves that not participating in harm is the same as not causing it. 11 words did not fix 31 years. But they were the most honest thing he had ever sent me. I put the phone face down on the counter. My mother called the following morning. Early. The kind of early that means someone did not sleep. Her voice was different from every version I had heard before. Stripped of the management, the careful brightness, the tone she used when she wanted to redirect a conversation before it arrived somewhere uncomfortable. Amber. Please. I am listening, I said. We did not know about the seating, she said. We did not see the table until after you had already. Mom. She stopped. You found the journal, I said. 3 years ago. You smiled when I asked why there was nothing about me in it. You said I never needed the attention. Silence. You knew, I said. Every time you told me to stay quiet. Every time you let her take the spotlight. Every time you said, you're fine, Amber, you're always fine. You knew. Her voice when it came back was smaller. I thought you were stronger, she said. I was, I said. That is not the same as not needing to be seen. She cried. The quiet kind, the kind that does not perform. I listened to it for a moment. Then I said something I had been holding for a very long time. I am not angry at you, Mom. I am just done pretending it was fine. I said goodbye. Hung up. Leah did not call for 2 weeks. When she did, her voice had lost the edge it always carried. She sounded like someone who had been in a room alone with themselves for long enough that the performance had finally run out of material. I need you to know I didn't mean. Guess you don't count, I said. She went quiet. Those were your words, I said. At your own wedding. In the hallway by the service doors. Those were the words you chose. I was stressed. The wedding was. I drove 3 hours, I said. I wrapped your gift the night before. I ironed my dress twice. And you put me next to the trash cans and told me I didn't count. Silence. I am not calling to fight, I said. I am calling to tell you that I heard you. And that I finally believe you. Not the version of you that comes back when things fall apart. The version that shows itself when everything is going exactly the way you planned. Amber. I hope you figure out who you want to be, I said. I genuinely do. But I am not going to be the person who waits around to find out. I hung up. 3 days later I booked a week in a small coastal town in Maine I had never been to. I packed one bag. My wine-colored dress folded carefully at the bottom, not because I planned to wear it, but because I had decided it deserved better than a hook on the back of a chair. On my last morning before leaving, I stepped onto my apartment balcony. The city air smelled clean. The river caught the morning light and held it. I thought about the hallway, the smell of lilies and bleach, the folding chair that squeaked when I sat down, the silver box I had placed carefully on top of a pile of gifts before walking out into the Vermont evening. I had not left it out of cruelty. I had not left it to destroy her. I left it because I had spent 31 years keeping the truth quiet to make other people comfortable. That night I decided comfortable was no longer the point. My name is Amber Hayes. I am 31 years old. At my sister's wedding, I was seated in the hallway next to the trash cans. My sister told me I did not count. My mother adjusted her pearls and looked away. My father looked at the floor. I left a small silver box on the gift table. Inside was the truth. Documented, dated, wrapped in ribbon I had tied tighter than necessary. And then I walked out. Not in anger. Not in tears. Not with a speech or a confrontation or a scene that would make me the difficult one again. Just out. Into the Vermont evening. Into the cold, clean air. Into the quiet I had been denied my whole life and had finally decided to claim for myself. Justice does not always roar. Sometimes it is a small silver box on a gift table. Sometimes it is the sound of your own footsteps leaving a room that was never arranged to hold you. Sometimes it is the moment you stop waiting for people who have always known exactly where they seated you, and start building a table where you sit at the center. At my sister's wedding I was seated by the trash cans. This morning I am sitting by the river. Same silence. Different meaning. If you have ever been pushed to the outside of something that was supposed to include you, leave one word in the comments. Just one. I read every single one. And if this story reminded you that walking away is not weakness, it is sometimes the only honest thing left to do. Share it with someone who needs to hear that today. Subscribe. The next story is already waiting.